Thank you to 2K for sponsoring this video. 2K flew me out to Sydney to be one of the first people to play Borderlands 4. You may be asking, why me? And I don't know either. I was able to play as two Vault Hunters, Rafa and Vex, got to explore one of the open worlds, the Fadefields, do a few quests, fight a few bosses, and I have a lot to say. So if you're one of the many people who don't know who I am, what's going on? I'm Cashew, and for the past 2 years, I've been consistently making Borderlands videos, whether it be covering its history, its new news, or whatever random shenanigans I come up with. So going into this, I think it's important for you to know my take on Borderlands as a whole. I am a Borderlands fan. I have over 1,000 hours of Borderlands 2 alone, and I really know what I want from these games. The main thing I value in these games are the gameplay, the endgame, and above all else, the replayability. This is because a game is only really replayable to me when all of its other elements are also good. For Borderlands, this includes things like build diversity, characters, story, legendaries, challenges, and overall amount of content. For example, I like Borderlands 3, but due to a longer story and worse pacing of said story, I don't like playing it as much as others in the franchise. So this is where I'm coming from when I give my thoughts on the new game. With all that being said though, I'll admit that I am known to have some pretty crazy honeymoon phases with these games. I once said during my first playthrough of Wonderlands, quote for quote, this may be better than Borderlands 2. I don't know, man. But with all that said, this is what I think about Borderlands 4. Well, Borderlands 4, at least to me, feels a lot like the jump from Borderlands 2 to Borderlands 3. Borderlands 3 was a modernization of the Borderlands formula, bringing in new movement in the form of sliding and mantling. And in the same way, Borderlands 4 is a further modernization of that formula, now combining mechanics across the whole series and bringing in many new ones. The main stars of the show are the double jump, glide, air dodge, and grappling hook. These new movement mechanics completely change how you interact with the game, making for a much more fluid and vertical experience. With all these new mechanics, the player is really encouraged to move around as much as possible to best beat enemies and scavenge the battlefield for ammo and items. One thing that was extremely important to me before playing this was, did the grapple and the glide have momentum to them? And I was very pleased to find out that they absolutely do. I was really impressed with how far they can take you. You can chain together a grapple into a double jump into a glide, keeping all your momentum, then grapple another point, and that will reset your double jump and you can do it all over again. So if you find the right chain, you can really move in this game. I will say though, it did take a bit of getting used to with how the glide and the dodge work together, but once I had it down, it was like riding a bike. Also, you may notice in this footage that the glide doesn't have that much fuel in its meter. This can be upgraded later as one of the rewards from completing vault missions. The actual gameplay though, the guns, the items, it was also genuinely very good. As far as Borderlands gameplay is concerned, it was most like Borderlands 3, but it really is its own flavor. The sound design of everything makes it so you really feel the impact of your shots, and the guns themselves felt great to use. There are also new barrels that can be grappled then thrown once in your hand. It's a very satisfying way to kill enemies, and a fun mix-up for the gameplay. First thing I did in the game was the story mission Down and Outbound, which saw me traveling to and rescuing the Outbounders HQ from the Timekeeper's Order army. It was here in this first firefight where I really noticed the lack of a minimap. In Borderlands 4, there is no longer a minimap for a variety of reasons. Those ranging from it's not that useful in an open world setting, it would be very hard to implement, and wanting players to quote, play the game, not the minimap. I think those reasons are understandable for not including it, but as I feared, this impacts the fights the most. Not having the minimap there as an easy to see resource to quickly find out where enemies are around you really impacts the gameplay for me personally. There were a few times where enemies got the drop on me because I just had no idea where they were, and one time near the beginning where I just wandered off because I didn't know there were still enemies in the area. The compass is there to make up for it, but I found it to be kind of small, and when in combat it had a red outer glow which made it hard to see the already kind of small red dots on it. Speaking on that though, I found the heads up display in general to be kind of small. I think your health is a little too tucked away along with other elements like rep kits being just sort of hidden in the corner. Not to say that everything about this new HUD is bad though. Now when reloading, you're shown the exact time of how long your reload will take under your ammo, along with one of my favorite HUD elements returning in the form of your class mod now showing up under your health. After clearing out the enemies, I went into the base to meet new character Rush in a cutscene. A cutscene that shows one of the things I am most excited for Borderlands 4's story. Your character is a part of the cutscenes. Back in Borderlands 3, one of the biggest criticisms for that game's story was the fact that the player never felt like they had an impact despite being the one doing everything. Once a cutscene started, the Vault Hunter you were playing as was just never to be seen. Now in Borderlands 4 though, there he is! There's Rafa! He's right there! Makes me have a lot more faith than I did for Borderlands 4's story, and this is only further shown by how much the characters talk. This is a far cry from where this all started in Dragon Keep. The characters aren't just having one-sentence answers to what feels like heavily scripted questions anymore. In gameplay, your Vault Hunter talks way more, and I mean that as a good thing. There was one side quest I did with Claptrap that I'll talk more about later, where Claptrap and Rafa just had like a genuine conversation for a bit, and it felt great. But after we meet Rush, we get access to our new vehicle that we can digistruct anywhere. It's got the classic boost, weapon types, and can do a weak hop that I never found to be that useful. The best part about it though is when you eject out of it. You've probably no doubt seen this in the state of play, but you can boost into an area, eject from your car, and use its momentum combined with your double jump and glide to enter the fight immediately. As far as Borderlands cars go, which I know are not the most popular things in the world, these are pretty good. They're nice and fast, easy to control, and it's honestly impressive how smooth getting in and out of the car is. It's completely seamless. Moving on though, I made my way to the Order Surveillance Center where I found my first gun from one of the new manufacturers, so I think there's no better time to talk about them than now. The gun I found was a Ripper SMG. Yeah, so I thought this was a Ripper SMG, but that's a flat off. I will say though that their gimmick is that they have a small charge up time before unleashing a fully auto barrage with high fire rates. All in all, they are pretty decent. We then have the Order weapons, which I was not really excited for at all. The gimmick of needing to charge them up before firing also used to belong to Malawan in Borderlands 3, and it was never really anyone's favorite gun type. But man was I proven wrong by them this time around. Maybe it was the sound design, maybe it was the crazy amount of damage, but every Order weapon I found ended up being incredible. Its actual damage output was absolutely worth the charge up time. Then there is Daedalus. I don't like it. Now, they're not actually that bad at all. Their gimmick is that they can use multiple ammo types, and you switch which ammo type you use with the alternate firing mode. But I never found a Daedalus gun that actually had an impact. It was cool to use like sniper ammo on an SMG, kind of gave me like glitch weapons from pre-sequel vibes. But in retrospect, I think the only real issue I had with them is that I never found a good one. Getting back to the gameplay, in the Order Surveillance Center was really my first time where I really started properly feeling the new gameplay style of Borderlands 4. Being in the air way more often, using the air dodge, and tactically healing myself with the new rep kits. Rep kits are pieces of gear that let you quickly heal yourself during a firefight that are always on a cooldown. A few people weren't really sure about how these work, so to clear things up, let me just say that they're just heals on a cooldown. You cannot use them in Fight for Your Life, and they are not a free second wind. But there is more to them than what I've said. Some rep kits have buffs when you use them, which might cause you to want to use them before a fight instead of during. For example, I got one that increased my fire rate, so using it before a fight combined with my already high fire rate Ripper SMG let me get the drop on enemies and made for a really fun combo. After playing with them for only a short time, they felt like such a natural inclusion that it's something that you will just be doing on autopilot. And to those who think that the rep kits are just going to make the game way too easy, I disagree. From what I gathered from the short time I got to play the game, the overall difficulty has increased, and the game encourages a much more aggressive playstyle. One of the ways they do this is through armor. When you kill an enemy, they will sometimes drop some orange stuff on the floor. Once picked up, you gain an extra health bar over your shield. This is armor, and I really like it. With there being a lot more enemies at once in these really big fighting areas, it gives a lot of space for the player to make tactical decisions on the fly for whether they want to focus on kills or quickly air dodge around the corner to quickly heal up. It has a very fun flow state to it. Another addition to this are Ordinance, the replacement for launchers, heavy weapons, and grenades. Instead of using ammo for these like you would in previous games, they now all share one slot in your inventory and are on a cooldown. And since they no longer use ammo vendors no longer have an option to go into them, just now sporting the buy all ammo as the only option since the expensive ammo types are gone. But let me just say, there are a lot of different types of ordnance. I barely scratched the surface in my play session, and even then I found launchers, remote bombs, a minigun, and my personal favorite, throwing knives. I don't know if I have ever experienced something in Borderlands as satisfying as landing a crit one-shot with a throwing knife. It was just mwah. Sadly though, something I feared for the Ordnance came true. You cannot use them in Fight for Your Life. I understand why, because grenades are never allowed to be used in Fight for Your Life. unless you're accent. But not being allowed to use launchers in Fight for Your Life is such a downgrade. That was my favorite use for launchers in previous Borderlands games, and I did notice the lack of them when I needed a good second wind gun. I mean, it's not the end of the world, and I think TDO chucks and high power single shot auto weapons will probably be able to more than make up for it, but it is a little disappointing nonetheless. And I would also be amiss if I didn't mention the new enhancements. Enhancements, as you might know, are the replacement for relics and artifacts in Borderlands 4. They are most like Allegiance relics from Borderlands 2, but work with gun parts instead of the base manufacturer. This is because of Borderlands 4's new licensed part system. Basically how it works is, on high rarity guns, primarily purples, sometimes blues, you will have a chance to roll other manufacturer parts on that weapon, which then give that said weapon a different manufacturer gimmick. So you can have a TD or reload Jacobs, a Vladoff with a Malawan elemental switch, a Daedalus that shoots Torque stickies, etc. The possibilities with this are seemingly endless. Back to the enhancements, they give specific buffs to those licensed parted weapons. For example, one of the ones I found was an elemental recycler enhancement that let TD or reloads keep 50% of their mag when thrown. Enhancements also have set bonuses that activate when you have a shield, class mod, and enhancement all as the same manufacturer. Sadly, I wasn't able to experience any of these, but the names on a few of them look pretty cool. Moving on, I then fought the boss Horus, who had a nice big arena to move around in. He was about what I would expect for an early game boss, not really too much to say besides Rafa's Apophis Lance absolutely melted him. The Apophis Lance is one of Rafa's 3 action skills that gives him an arm cannon that can fire shock blasts using up charges, or can be charged up to use all of its power at once for one gigantic piercing shot that does way more damage. I found it pretty fun, if a little simple at first, but it's a really good option for any time there's a badass enemy or a boss, and it will basically one-shot any mob you hit with it. Rafa's other action skills include his arc knives, which puts the game in third person and has Rafa go into a melee mode. Every time Rafa hits an enemy, they are marked, which can be stacked up to 4 times. Every mark on an enemy makes them take 6% more damage per mark. Rafa can also use Rafa's Blade Fury to deal massive shock damage to all enemies currently marked, but this will end the action skill. And you can be in this action skill for a long time. In fact, there is an augment that lets you stay in it forever until you either end it yourself or go into Fight for Your Life. So you can just run around like a lunatic, marking as many enemies as you can, launching yourself around the battlefield with his dash and air dodges, then kill all the enemies at once with the Blade Fury. It's super fun. But I will say, I did find it quite annoying to hit airborne enemies like the Wardens when in this mode. I think it's mainly because of the third-person camera. It just makes it so much harder to look up at them. And Rafa's final action skill are the Peacebreaker cannons. These are auto-firing cannons that will passively shoot enemies in the area automatically. These are a good activate and forget action skill that just let you continue focusing on what you're doing while increasing your damage output. This was probably my least favorite of Rafa's action skills, at least at first, since they don't really have that much impact until later in the skill tree. A skill tree that I was fortunate enough to go down. Which is not found, you'll understand later, but the cannons do get a bit more to them, with getting to shoot a massive AoE bomb, releasing a turret like you're playing Axton, or being able to fire a volley of homing rockets. It definitely gets better as you level it up, but you can say the same for every action skill. But after completing that part of the quest, the world was my oyster. I just started exploring, which I had a great time doing. One of the things I found in this exploration session was one of the new area challenges. This one was sort of a platforming challenge to grab 3 orbs on towers to activate a console. And when I did it, I was given the new collectible Evocarium, which I'm not sure what it does, but it also rewarded me with an audio log from Nyriad.
My name is Nyriad, and I am many things. A protector, a sister, a siren. But above all else, right now, I'm lost. I can only hope that by looking back on the circumstances of my arrival, I might find some clue that will lead to my escape. It started, as these mysteries so often do, with a vault. I can only hope it will end differently.
I was so happy when I heard this audio log, man, you have no idea. Having this optional lore is something I've always loved in these games, and having get them through explorative challenges, instead of just slabs that you can only access once you're 3/4 done with the game, is great. At this point is when I stumbled upon Claptrap crying, who had a side quest for me. I'll say this, I really enjoyed the quest, to the point where I think people should experience it for themselves, so I'm not gonna spoil it, but what I will say is that this quest is really Claptrap at his best. It really gave me Claptastic Voyage vibes where, yeah, he is annoying, but he still is a little bit funny, and he does have that more emotional side. I really enjoyed the quest, and there's not much more to say about it. Now, there's one thing I've neglected to mention so far though, and that's the new inventory menu. It's alright. Truth be told, I have a few issues with it. First and mainly, the menu is navigated with a cursor, even on controller, which just does not feel good. Personally, I don't like it at all. What's grown on me though is the layout of it. At first, I wasn't the biggest fan of it with how the equipped gun sat in the diamond in the center of the screen, but seeing how it's mirrored on the HUD actually makes me like it a lot more. Just need to increase that HUD scale in the settings so it's easier to see. Also in the menu is the new SDU tab, and yes, that does mean that you can now increase your ammo capacity types wherever you are. No needing to go back to the hub. And as Cashew, the Iridium Problem 1405, let me tell you how Borderlands 4 handles SDUs. Instead of spending Iridium or money that can both be used for other things, we now have specific SDU tokens. No idea how to get them, but what's cool is that this menu also confirms the return of the Lost Loot Machine. So to sum it all up, I really liked Borderlands 4. Shocker, I know. The gameplay feels very fluid and like a proper evolution of the Borderlands formula. The gameplay is a lot more vertical, and your new movement abilities like the grapple, glide, and air dodge really make for a fun flow state. The loot chase, which I did not see much of evidently since I only played for a few hours, feels like it has potential to be quite fulfilling with the new manufacturers and the licensed part system. Characters were good, voice acting was good, and I'm a big fan of the massive skill trees. Like I said at the top of the video, I'm mainly into Borderlands for its replayability. The skill trees here do help its case, but at the moment we don't really have enough information to know how replayable the game will be. I'm personally still waiting for more information, especially on dedicated drops and the endgame. From what I played, I did enjoy it. All I'm saying is that we are not at a point where I can say this game will be replayable or not. I'll have even more to say over the coming days, including a complete breakdown of every skill in Rafa and Vex's skill trees, plus a little bit more, so stay tuned for that. But for now, thank you again to 2K for sponsoring this video. Borderlands 4 releases on PC and console September 12th, and you can pre-order now, link in description. Thanks for watching, and here are the channel member shoutouts. My gold and macadamia channel members are Jaden H, who found out firsthand who wins in a fight between one gorilla and 100 trains. It was the trains. Yep. Mayonnaise, who can see things that not everyone can see, including but not limited to color. No, that's it. They're just not colorblind. Ian Crawford, who jumped out of a plane and skydived into an open door of another plane below. Nevertheless Raven, who changed our future from its original path. Apparently, according to them, everyone was going to start really getting into kangaroo meat, and it was somehow going to crash like every economy because of a lack of supply. Rosie Thorns, who killed someone and then tried to get the detectives to play real-life Cluedo to figure it out, but they weren't having any of it and just arrested them on the spot since there were like 9 witnesses. Judah, who made it their life's mission to backflip off of every important building in the world. They've already done the Taj Mahal, that one castle in Transylvania, and every single fast food branch. Like, ever. JBH, who knows what their shoutout was going to say already, so I decided to advert their expectations by saying something completely different. Wesker 520, who grows super-powered tea plants that have a 50% chance of killing the drinker, but also a 50% chance of showing them what the afterlife is like. It's just poison. It's just, sorry Wesker, I can't keep up with the lies anymore, man. Angel B, who is the genius writer behind beloved characters such as Karate Banana, Mr. Q, and John. Chibi Scrimpy, who gets confused easily and has been bringing live seals to their business meetings so that they could seal the deal. But honestly, you'd be surprised how much the seal actually helps that working relationship. No one wants to disappoint it. And my other nut tier members, Medieval Rancher, Tryptophan, Koi Cadaver, Mr. TX01, Death, Whammer, Revenge Viper, and Jacob Rodriguez. But thank you guys so much for this extra support. If you also want to become a channel member, you can by just hitting the join button below the video. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.